Representative, welcome back to the program here. For several years, we noticed you've been hesitant to really get involved with DART and its 13 member cities here, but not anymore. This bill you have would essentially, if it's passed, blow a hole in DART's budget. Why'd you decide to get involved now?
Yeah, well, it really doesn't blow a hole in the budget. So here's the issue. You've got 13 cities that DART serves. Six of them are highly frustrated with DART. There's a terrible imbalance as far as the funding. You literally have one city, Plano, that's getting less than 50 cents on the dollar for the funding that they put in. So they put over $100 million into DART every year, and they're getting maybe $45 million worth of services. And look, these cities, they've been trying to engage DART, accommodate, some of the issues that are front and center, and DART just refuses to work with them. This has been going on for 6 or 7 years. So, I'm put in a position where I have to take care of this legislatively. Believe me, there's a lot of work to be done down in Austin, and my preference would be these cities work something out with DART, but we're forced to pursue a legislative solution.
This legislation, though, kind of reads like it's a voucher, if you will, with what's going on for local cities to get their money back, some of their money back from DART. But
Right.
why not just let them leave DART when the opportunity presents itself every few years?
Well, here's the mechanism to leave DART. You have to put it to a vote. And then if it passes, then the service stops immediately, but then they're still paying in for like 6 or 7 years. So it really doesn't make economic sense to leave DART. And I don't think these cities want to leave DART. They just want fair allocation of money that they're paying in. Again, you have Plano. I keep using them as an example. They pay in over $100 million a year and getting less than $50 million in return. So what Plano and 5 other cities, University Park and the like, they're just saying, hey, let's have a financial arrangement that makes sense. Let's not have the Planos and University Park and Highland Park funding some of this transportation that's going outside their cities.
And you said Plano, and I believe several other cities have tried, but I know Plano has for several years to get this imbalance fixed. But why isn't the board receptive to that? I mean, we're talking about a lot of money here that Plano is paying in, but it's not getting service for.
Yeah, no, and I don't know. I've met with the CEO, the CFO. I've met with board members. I have no idea. I will tell you, a couple of years ago, I had legislation just to increase transparency. Hey, just tell us how much we're paying in versus what we're receiving. And DART fought that, I think, because they knew what the results were going to show. But we had a member of DART come down that first session and actually testify against the legislation that was just asking for more transparency. There were promises made by DART. They never accommodated those promises that they made. So that same board member came the following session and actually supported legislation for transparency. So look, at the end of the day, DART needs to show some leadership. They need to start treating these 6 cities as customers, sit down and work things out. But let me tell you, this bill is getting a hearing next week. It's got a lot of support in the Transportation Committee, and I'm moving forward fast and furious to get this legislation passed if DART doesn't come to the table.
Let me ask you this. If you have almost half of the 13 member cities who are upset with DART, 6 of the 13, should the legislature consider breaking up DART?
Well, I would rather have those cities come together and work out an arrangement with DART. I don't know if we want to break up DART or not. I think the more geography that DART has, the better. I don't think anybody's talking about getting rid of DART or breaking up DART. It's more along the lines of having, a relationship in place with the DART board and the city mayors and city council and city managers to come to an agreement on what's the equitable way to pay for DART.
A lot of folks oppose this. I think there are 25 pages of comments from people. I didn't see any support in there besides support from city leaders in Plano. What do you tell your constituents who say this is a bad idea?
Well, what I tell the cities is they're overpaying for services that, quite frankly, most of my constituents don't use. Most of the people actually don't use DART. If you look at the population, right, you have several million people in the DART area. The vast majority of those people don't use DART, right? You have a bunch of empty buses in multiple cities. If you drive by a DART bus, quite frankly, it's highly likely the bus is going to be empty. But look, we don't want to get rid of DART. We're not going to hurt DART. But we are going to force DART to either come to the table and create an equitable financing situation, or we're going to force them legislatively. That's their 2 options.
let me lay out some numbers here too. DART collects, I believe, $870 million from all 13 of its member cities every year. A good chunk of that from Plano as well. If those cities take out a quarter of what they pay in, which is what the legislation would do here, that would take $217 million off the books for DART. How would this legislation impact mass transit though in the region?
Well, look, we're gonna honor, DART needs to honor its debt, right? So it has public debt that it's issued, it's committed to pay. And I'm open to making adjustments to the legislation as far as ensuring that the debt can continue to be served, and it will. Again, this is just a reallocation. So if DART was smart, right, you talked about $800 million, all they would do is sit down and talk about how to reallocate that $800 million, right? But they're not doing that. They're making several of the cities, 6 of the cities actually overpay. So again, if DART was smart, they could work something out with the cities where their dollar amount actually stays the same. It's just the load of the payments would shift to the cities that are actually having the heavier volume of service.
Let's say DART isn't smart though, and this legislation passes. Is that going to take buses off the streets? Fewer
No,
trains on the
not at
tracks?
all. Actually, what it'll do is it'll actually help these 6 cities that have been hurt from a transportation perspective, right? So they're having to put so much money into DART, dollars that they could be used in their own cities and their own geographies for mobility projects that they're unable to do today. So actually, net, when you look at this from a constituent perspective, the constituent will be better off because now the cities can use those dollars for widening roads, add roads, and what have you.
Representative, always good to see you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.